PPSA Power Hour. It's rolling into another week, another Tuesday, another 1 o'clock session. Coming in live from the Pen and Paper Strength App Garage, where a lot of good heavy lifting goes down. So we got a special guest today. I'll keep it quick because I want him to have all the time for himself here. But this guy, I'm telling you, he's if you follow Instagram and when he has his athletes training, some of the footage and things that he captures, it really feels like you're in that session. He does a great job of highlighting his players, the intensity, the I would say the culture and the brand that this program has. And I've always commented, always telling him, got my popcorn, because it's like watching a movie, because he'll put multiple shots of squats and guys throwing med balls and doing Russian leans and all kinds of stuff. And it's really like a show. So Jim here has been phenomenal in the content he puts out, and I've seen him speak before and heard him speak several times in different things, and I'm sure he's going to have a great something for us. I kind of have a feeling by the title page here, I know where this is going, which I've seen this one. This one's great. So Coach, platform is yours, and just knock it out. I know you'll do well.
All right, man. Appreciate having me on. And, this is a little bit strange, as I'm sure everybody said, giving a talk to people and you can't even see who you're talking to, but I'm excited to be here, excited to contribute. You do awesome stuff, and we all appreciate it. So it's a little bit of a glance at what we're looking to talk about here. So we're looking at OWL Strength, establishing a program and cohesive culture, the OWL way. My name is Jim KIRITSY. I'm the assistant AD for sports performance and strength and conditioning at Kennesaw State University. We're located about 30 miles north of Atlanta, Georgia. We started football in 2014, and we've had some great people, some awesome players, and a great experience. And we're very, very proud of what we've done, hungry to continue to pursue more. But what I'm going to do is share with you what we've put out there and what we've worked to create, from the ground up, from literally an empty weight room with nothing but a concrete floor and boxes of helmets and shoulder pads coming into where we are today. So we'll start. I'll fly through some of these things. Our objectives today is to explain how our training fits the vision and culture of our head coach. I'm a big believer that the head coach really drives the program, and that my job is to support him in my way with my area of expertise. I'm going to explain the setup of Kennesaw State football training year round. We are unique with the way we go about our business, so that's important to understand. We're going to discuss multi-level training program setup, and then some blueprint examples of trainings. We have a lot of videos. Hopefully they stream well, but we got a lot of stuff that goes back to our first couple of years. Like Coach said, I put a lot of stuff on social media, so please feel free to follow us. When we got guys training, there's a lot of stuff that we put out. I'm an open book. I like having conversations about what we do and what you're doing. But lately, the past couple of years, it's all about the Instagram story. But I guess I'm getting older now. And when we started this, it was uploading actual, posts. So a lot of these videos are a little bit older. So if you're a guy who played for us, you might see some old heads, guys, which would be kind of fun. So just really quick about me. I'm the son of a coach, who's the son of a coach. I grew up playing football and baseball. I started training when I saw Rocky. I was inspired. And like I said at Summer Strong a couple of years ago, don't be afraid to be inspired by a movie or a song or a montage, because I watched him train and then fight Apollo like we all did, right? And the next day I went for a run. I remember how far I got on Swift Road when I got a cramp and walked back. And the next day I ran again and got a little bit further, and I was like, oh man, this shit works. Let's keep doing this. And I got the bug. And so Rocky was a big inspiration to me starting to train. I played football and baseball in high school. I went to Norwich University, which is a small Division III school in Vermont. I was a member of the Corps Cadets. It's a military school. I played football and baseball, and I had my first strength coach. So that was really big, because where I'm from in Massachusetts, there isn't really strength and conditioning at the high school level. You really left to your own devices. You're lucky if you have a coach that will open the weight room and just give you a BFS magazine and say, hey, go to work. And that's what we were doing. We just figured it out. But when I went to college, I had a strength coach, Justin Goulet, who when I saw what strength and conditioning can do when organized, and it really inspired me. And I always knew I wanted to coach, but I always thought it was going to be that track of, you know, it could be a high school football coach, I'm going to run the weight room, be a baseball coach in the spring. But I realized when I got to college that you could be a strength coach. And that was the avenue that I took. After I graduated with a degree in phys ed, I got a job at the University of Vermont. It was a great experience for me. I worked with all teams. My first year, I just assisted with everybody. My second year, I had a lot of teams on my own, but I didn't make any money. So, you know, it was a great experience for me to grow up and really test my mettle, if you will. So, you know, I worked with every team. I was a personal trainer. I trained club teams till 11 o'clock at night. I worked hard, made a ton of mistakes, social mistakes, programming mistakes. And, you know, I was on my own. And so I had to find a way to pay the bills. I had to hustle and bustle. And I just learned a lot about myself. And I realized, you know, I really wanted to be a strength coach, and it's going to be hard work. And that kind of laid the foundation for like my conviction in doing this. And so we can all say that we have a war story, and I'm proud of mine, of sleeping on the floor and having one set of drawers in the room, and, you know, all that stuff that all happened when I was at UVM. And I'm very proud of that time. And there's some great people that we met along the way there. After 2 years, I went to the Citadel in Charleston, South Carolina. And one of the most important things in my life happened. I found a mentor, and that's Donnell Boucher. So if you don't follow him, Citadel Coach D on Instagram and Twitter, he does an amazing job at a place that's very difficult to be successful because it's another military school. But he's a phenomenal resource, phenomenal friend, and I'm grateful for my time there. I went to grad school there. I trained basketball, wrestling. I oversaw the staff and the facility, and I relearned how to read. And Donnell was critical in me, or he really taught me that there's a lot more than just, you know, what's on Elite FTS and T Nation. You got to learn not just to read strength books, but you got to think outside the box and read stuff that make you think differently, like Malcolm Gladwell or Patrick Lencioni or John Maxwell, and learn how to organize your thoughts and organize your opinions and be a better communicator and leader. And so that was an awesome time for me. Now we get into the real stuff. So in 2014, I left the Citadel to be the first director for football at Kennesaw State. And the first meeting, literally the first, I got to build my own weight room. We really started things from the ground up, and it's awesome. So we were founded in 2014. In fall of 14, we had 90 kids or 95 kids show up, and we just beat the crap out of them all year. I mean, we just absolutely beat the crap out of them all year. We would practice Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and we would lift on Tuesday, Thursday, and we would just get after it. Full pads, all gas, no breaks, every single day. And the people who made it through there, you know, have a lot that they can be really, really proud of. So we went into 2015 with a whole team full of redshirt freshmen. And we went 6-5. Next year, 8-3. In 2017, we broke open, went 12-2, made it to the quarterfinals, and postseason was ranked 7th in the country. 2018, we went 11-2. We made the quarters again. We had a first round bye in the playoffs, and postseason we're ranked 4th. We had a couple great games that year that we'll remember forever. We were conference champions those years. And then this past year, we went 11-3 after replacing 10 of 11 starters on offense and 6 of 11 starters on defense. And that's a huge tribute to our head coach and the culture that we've built. And we were postseason ranked 8th after that. And there's just a lot more that we're going to continue to build on. There's another time at some point I'd love to discuss what it's like to have the same group of kids for 5 years and then replace them all at one time. It's an amazing, amazing transition and learning experience, because 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, we're talking about the same core of kids. And then they're all gone. That's a test of culture. And there were some successes and failures that along the way that I've learned from. But we're proud of those kids who helped us, you know, go 11-3 and have some great games, and are hopefully going to play in 2020 and hopefully build on that. So that's our history, which is short. Our leader is head coach Brian Bohannon. So Coach Bo, that's him, and that's me, horrified to try to hold him back on the sidelines, right? And so I really like showing that picture, because if that's your leader, right, you got to think about what he wants his weight room to look like. Understand, we're up 32-3 in the 4th quarter, and he's having that type of mentality on the sideline, right? So this is what I like to say, and I mean no disrespect to people who are a lot smarter than me, but if that's your head coach, do you think he wants to walk in his weight room and see everybody laying on the ground, feet up on the wall, blowing into a balloon? The answer is no, right? He wants to see his guys getting after it. He wants to see his guys being trained. He wants to see his guys going through some stuff that's going to build their reserve mentally, physically, emotionally, right? That's going to allow them to go through the stuff that he's going to put them through and give us a resolve that we need in order to be successful as football players. when he hired me, he told me in his office that this is the most important hire when he's starting the program. He goes, I don't know shit about strength and conditioning, but I know it wins championships. Right? And his big thing was it was all about culture. Right? He wanted discipline, and he wanted a team built on effort, attitude, and toughness. All right? The discipline comes from his experience when he was a coach at Navy. So he loved working at Navy with some of the most disciplined young men in the world. Okay, but the athleticism that he wanted he wanted to resemble his time when he coached at Georgia Southern with Coach Paul Johnson, and they won 2 national championships and went to 3 at the FCS level. He wanted to combine that, and he felt like I was the person who could help him do it, and I was excited to. Now, the effort, attitude, and toughness is critical. This became a huge piece of what we are. If there's anything that we've done well as a football program, it's that we have communicated EAT to a T. Right? If there's not one person in our building, whether it be Lydia at the front desk, Phil in the training room, Juan in the video room, Michael in academics, me and my staff in the back, every coach, every player, everybody understands what EAT is, right? Effort, attitude, and toughness is going to be what we are defined as. That is what we are going to aspire to be. And when you're working for a person who believes in these things, you better make sure that you're putting that stuff in your training. Right. And then when he described the type of athlete that he wanted the fastest, fittest, toughest team in America. All right. He put that blueprint out there for him. He didn't tell me how to do it. He told me what he wanted. Right. He said, I'll sacrifice size for speed any day of the week. Right. And I want to be in the best shape in the fourth quarter of any game. Right. That right there is going to be what helps me make decisions when I write programs. Right. And now if you work for someone in the Big Ten who goes double tight and they go, I write 41 blast, and they want to move mountains with 335-pound guards, well, you might do things differently than I do. But this is what has been outlined by our head football coach and helps drive my decision-making. So to any young coach out there paying attention to this, when you work for a head coach, whether it be volleyball, soccer, football, baseball, you got to understand what your head coach wants. It's your job to build that. Don't have an ego thinking that you're the one who's going to tell him what type of athlete he wants. Your job is to build his athlete. He's not going to try to tell you how to do it, hopefully, right? But you got to build his athlete the right way. And we want to make sure that we train to our strengths. We recruit small, fast, really wiry and aggressive competitive kids, right? Our slot backs, our little scat back running backs are 165 to 180 pounds, right? That's who we recruit. So yeah, I want to get them a little bit bigger. Yes, I want to get them a little bit faster, stronger, but our goal is to be fast, F-A-F, right? That's what we want to be, lightning. So we're going to train our strength. So the guy in the corner there, guy is Jack Clark. He has been the head coach for the rugby team at Cal since 1984. And I believe his overall record is 754-90. And that's pretty good as a coach. So he says that he has 70% of his time spent on strengths, 30% of his time is spent on weaknesses. And I like that principle. I like that idea. I don't know how to quantify that, but we're going to make sure that we're training our strengths, fixing some of our weaknesses, but making sure that we're going to be that fast team that Coach Bo wants. The week before our first football game, 2015, our coach Bohan got to the staff and he goes, if we lose a game, but we're told that we are fast, tough, athletic, and well coached, I'll be fine. My goal, my staff's goal is to help create this team. FTA. We'll talk about that later. Fast, tough, and athletic, because we got to train what we're trying to be. We can't do one thing and expect to become something else. Our job is to train. If we want to be that, we got to train to become that. All right. So talking about culture a little bit, and this is a new slide here. Okay. How do you achieve your culture? I took this right out of the Focus 3 podcast, which is a phenomenal resource on leadership and culture and development communication. And then tied it back to one of the best books I've ever read, which is Summed Up by Pat Summitt. You get what you proclaim, you promote, and you permit. Right? You proclaim. What do you talk about? What is important to you? Do you say it often enough where it is echoed around your building? Do you say it often enough where everybody in your building knows what's going on, okay, and knows what is important to the program? Do they know what's important to the building? Right? Because if you were to ask your defensive tackle, what are you about? And they can't tell you, then you don't proclaim enough. So, and then what do you promote? What specific behaviors do you promote? So from an effort standpoint, we say attack and finish our drills, right? We promote attack and finish, and there's consequences when you don't do it, right? Attitude is a no palms up. We don't ever want to have palms up. It's a yes or no, sir mentality, and apply your coaching. And then toughness is body language. We don't put hands on knees. We don't put our hands on our head. Okay. We stand tall. We be tough. We promote those positive actions and then we celebrate them. Everyone thinks discipline is negative, negative, negative. Discipline you can promote positives as much as you need to push down negatives. So we celebrate when people do a great job. And that's part of the promote. And then what do you permit? When your best player has his hands on his knees, are you just being quiet and turn your back? Because if you did that, you just hurt your culture. So proclaim what you speak, which means you got to know what you believe in, right? Know what you're a part of. Promote what are the specific behaviors and how do you celebrate those when they're done well? And then what do you permit? What do you allow kids to get away with? And it's very simple, but it's hard to do because, there are some tough kids out there to deal with. There's some tough personalities and tough eggs to crack. And that's why relationships are so important, but you can't permit the bullshit to happen within your program. You can't do it. But that means you have talked about what's important to you. You've made it very specific to them. And then you've communicated what's going to happen when they don't. Moving on to our philosophies. Okay. So I believe there's a difference between a coaching philosophy and a training philosophy. Coaching starts on the inside, right? And that is why you do what you do. Why do I coach? Like I told you, I'm the son of a coach. It's the son of a coach. My stepdad has coached high school girls basketball for over 35 years. He does it for a gas stipend. He doesn't do it for the money, right? And that's what I grew up. I grew up in that environment. I believe that I coach for the right reason. I want to teach people skills that they don't have, right? I want to mentor them through their mistakes, meaning I'm going to hold them accountable to the agreements and their responsibilities that we've agreed upon, right? And then I'm going to train them because training is my platform of leadership. Okay. Your platform of leadership might be, as a position coach, but my platform of leadership is in the weight room. So I'm going to teach and mentor while I train my student athletes. Now, training philosophy is what you do, right? And so what does our training look like? Our training is ground-based and it's progressive. So obviously we're going to train with our feet on the ground, and we're going to start small and we're going to build up and make sure we're doing it as safely as possible, but it's going to be dynamic and it's going to be competitive. We want to be as explosive as possible in order to breed the mentality, right, that we want to try to push on our kids. So we're going to be dynamic with the way that we train. We're going to be competitive in our environment. We're going to be KISS. We're going to keep it simple, stupid, keep it short and simple, whatever you want to say it, right? We're going to keep things as simple as possible. If we feel like you're making great progress, as soon as we feel like we're going to ride and ride and ride and ride and ride. Okay. But if you can't make the progression to the next stage of a lift, I'm not going to back you down in order to teach a new lift. We're going to keep riding the success that we're having. And we'll talk about that from an Olympic lifting standpoint. We're going to keep things simple so we can continue to be aggressive. And then we're going to make things difficult. This is one of the great books that I've ever read. I've read it 3 times. I will definitely read it again. This is Gates of Fire by Stephen Pressfield. And it talks about the Spartans at Thermopylae and the culture of the fighting Spartan. And they believed in really difficult training. And they said that the hardship of the exercises is intended less to strengthen the back than to toughen the mind. The Spartans say that any army may win while it has its legs under it. The real test comes when all strength has fled and the men must produce victory on will alone. I'm not letting this be my excuse to be stupid when I train people. All right. But what I am going to do is put my guys in difficult situations so they have a little bit extra will and reserve when things get hard on Saturdays in the fall. Another great reference to this is from General Stanley McChrystal. General McChrystal ran our special forces operations in Iraq in the worst part of our war from like 2007 to 2010. All right. And when he was asked about mental toughness, he said the first thing to do is to push yourself harder than you believe you are capable of. You'll find a new depth inside yourself. The second is to put yourself in groups who share difficulties and discomfort. We used to call it shared privation. You'll find that when you have been through that kind of difficult environment, that you feel more strongly about that which you are committed to. And finally, create some fear and make individuals overcome it. All right. And I understand the state of our industry. I understand that we got to be smart and health and safety is first. All right. But at the same time, we got to put our kids through some stuff that make them feel ridiculously committed to their teammates. There's nothing like hearing a reunion about all the stuff that we used to go through. It's the bond It's the ties that bind us, are those shared difficult experiences. Those moments where I don't know if I can do another one. I don't know if I'm going to make this time. I don't know if I can go fast enough. I don't know if I can win this rep. I'm exhausted. I'm hot. My hands hurt, right? I don't want to get under that bar again, but going under there and doing it, you find more about yourself, and you did it for somebody else. We all grow together. I believe in that. I believe in that. You got to do it safe, but I believe in that firmly. Okay. So when you combine the coaching philosophy and the training philosophy, we try to make it fit our team vision and stuff. One thing I want to put out there too, all right, is this concept that I took. I read a lot of military books, is mission over men and sympathy versus empathy. You should care about your mission 1% more than you care about your men. And that sounds messed up. But if you're not worried about, if you're more worried about your kids' feelings, you're not going to push them enough where they can be elite and go win. You cannot have sympathy for what you're putting your kids through. Sympathy are feelings of pity and sorrow for someone else's misfortune, right? And if you're out there during a conditioning session, you feel bad, you're going to hit the stopwatch a little bit late. Or you're going to lie to them and let them feel like they made their time, right? You can have empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of someone else. You can empathize and feel the pain. You can express to them that you've been there, but you can't feel bad for them for going through it. You got to know that what we're trying to do is bigger than you. It's a we thing, our mission. And so you can't be putting yourself where you're trying to make kids feel comfortable. It's going to take away from our ability to win.
Coach, something on that one. I think early in my coaching career, I used to kind of make the mistake when we were, doing things like, say, a team conditioning session and things. And I think sometimes we held back on some of the drills just because we knew, like, hey, these 3 or 4 guys aren't going to do well in this environment. So let's not put that drill in the program. Let's keep it positive. What happens is your players that are gung ho, they're kind of like, why wasn't it real tough today, coach? Like bring it. And you're sitting there going, I just felt guilty. I just failed because I put, 97% of the guys, I held them back because I put those 3% of the guys in my mind on which drills to choose today in the conditioning program. And you look back and you said, you can't hold the program down. You got to teach people how to rise. And again, I've been guilty of that several times throughout my career. And we had a motto this year. We talked about, we're going to keep raising the bar in our program. So we said, if you lower the bar, you lower the standard, you lose your winners. But if you raise the bar, you lose your losers.
And it's, I love that. That's what I'm going to use that. Thank you. But it's hard. It's really, really difficult, especially when the difficult personalities are your best players.
Yeah.
But you got to have conviction about yourself. You got to believe in it, and you got to be able to put that stuff on the line. I think we've done a good job of that. Me and all the people, the coaches that have coached at Kennesaw football, and also the coaches and the interns and the GAs that have come through and worked with me. I think we've done a pretty good job of that, and we'll continue to push that envelope. Coach Bohannon believes in win the day, and my job is to support Coach Bohannon. So I'm going to find a way that I can help our football team win the day on the field, off the field, and in the classroom. So how does that look? Number one, this sign goes with us everywhere, right? That's in Presbyterian's locker room, and the one on the bottom is at Charleston Southern. Those are conference games for us. That was made for the first year, and it will be carried with us forever. It's getting a little beat up, but we love it. We all have those things that the more worn they get, the more you love them. But win the day matters to us a lot. And my job is to help us do that. So how can I help us win the day on the field, at practice? We know as football strength coaches, we're at practice from start to finish. So what can I do to help win the day at practice? Number one, I warm them up. That's the easy part, right? But my staff and I are going to run Muscle Beach. Muscle Beach is all the injured kids who are short-term, an ankle, a hamstring, a shoulder, something short-term. They don't get the day off, right? They're in full gear, wearing their helmet, cleats on, tied up, laced up, on time, wearing the right thing. And they're going to go through 40 to 60 minutes of just tough work, right? And because we have to have the mentality that there's no such thing as an off day. So we'll get creative with what we do. We try to keep it positive because no kid wants to get hurt. But at the same time, there's an accountability to working hard. I spend a lot of time on the offensive field. because our offensive practices, if you talk to anybody who played at Kennesaw State, offense is vicious. Young man named Devin Pewsley played 4 years of defensive line for us, and going into his 5th year, he switched to O-line. He's like, what the hell did I do? Like, this is brutal. And so I spent a lot of time, kind of keeping the spirits up there, but making sure we run on and off the field, keep their helmets on. They get 30 seconds to get water, and their helmet goes back on. They stand back up and they get back on the sideline. They support their teammates and they pay attention to what's going on. That's my job and my staff's job to keep that going. So we have that as part of our culture. And then I try to invest time with our spec ops, right? During games, we're calling up the special teams units, but I also make sure we all know the specialists. I don't like to admit it, but they are people. They are. And so once a day during practice, I try to make sure I go over there and just say what's up to them, talk to them, let them know that we don't all hate them. And so I try to invest in that relationship. I think that's important. We got some great kids. If you want to know guys who are really passionate about what they do, they're specialists, because they got to do everything that everybody else does, but practice, they're by themselves the entire time. Helmets, it's tough. Those are some special kids. So I try to invest in them on the field. Off the field, we're responsible for all aspects of attendance and punctuality. And that can be a real pain in the ass, right? Like no one wants to be the guy with the clipboard just checking people in all the time. But what we take pride in is that we're the first person they see every time they come into the building, right? We can give them the energy that they need, or they don't realize they need, but they need. We can greet them. We can dap them up. We can say what's up. We can ask them questions, ask them how they're doing. And we can be the spark for their afternoon. We don't know what's going on the rest of their life, but when they come in, they see us first, and that's important. It might seem like a menial task, but that is important. We don't let hats or earrings be worn in the building. So we're in there taking hats off, earrings out, do-rags off, and we're just hollering it, making fun of them when their hair looks bad, making it fun. They can snap back at us a little bit. They can have some fun. If we're teasing them, they can tease us. I'm going bald. They can say what they want. But we make sure that we're upholding the standards of our building. We run punishments for infractions, and we gather cell phones. So every day these buckets are sitting right here. And when you walk in, you got to put your phone, you got to put the phone in the bucket, phones in the buckets. It's amazing how hard it is to get kids to put phones in the buckets. These stories I will tell you about the lengths kids have gone to sneak them in the building are hysterical, including, rolling it up in the pocket of a hoodie, rolling up the hoodie, putting it in the bottom of a backpack. But we're like Jackson Hartsfield, Atlanta Airport. We're pulling things out and we're stripping them down and we're patting them down, because Coach Bowen don't want them in there. We're going to make sure those phones aren't in the building and they can stay focused on football when they're there. Right? I think that's important. Our kids are these. I'm bad. I get my weekly screen time update every Sunday and it nauseates me. Right? I think it's important that our kids have time where they're focused on each other and a common task. Get their head off of social media into the real world. I think that's important.
We got a stat coach. We had a guest speaker about a month ago, talked to our staff, and he said the average screen time between a player, between laptop, phone, iPad, all that, TV, video game, is 10 point something hours a day. Yeah. And so they just said, that's just data we can give you. This is the generation you coach. And then something else on the Muscle Beach, just something I'll tell you, share what we do on that is we quit calling it Muscle Beach, and the players, we started calling it the Return to Play group. And they took a little pride, and they're like RTP, so it's just a little bit different again how you associate it. When we started calling it Return to Play, then the trainers were calling it Return to Play. Now the coaching staff started calling it the Return to Play. It's kind of like, okay, they're out here, they're trying to get us back, and yeah. Just again, that naming something different is it's kind of neat how they take it.
I think that's an awesome idea, and something that I didn't put this in the slide because I wasn't really doing it when I originally made this presentation. But taking a big role at practice also of like the late stage rehabs. The kids who are coming back from an ankle, kids who are coming back from a hammy or whatever it is. And, the trainers, we have a phenomenal group of athletic trainers. And I believe that Philip Young, our head guy, is just exceptional. And his staff always does a great job, and our student trainers and everything. But they're trying to make sure kids don't die. You know what I mean? So they're out there making sure practice going on, and if it's a particularly really aggressive practice, they didn't get a chance to work with any other kids who were supposed to do some running. Kids supposed to be getting a top speed, kids supposed to get evaluated to see when they can come back. There have been several times over the years where kids are a week late getting back from an injury because our trainers are doing their first job. So my staff and I have stepped up and doing that. And we've also incorporated more rehab into Muscle Beach too, but we'll never lose the environment of making sure it's hard work because we want them to feel like it's a work day. Clean Kennesaw, I'll make this quick, but I think it's important. Off-season competition. I believe in teaching our kids to stop looking with horse blinders on and widen them out and see the rest of the world. And I asked them to pick up trash along campus. So I'll get these on Instagram, kids reaching into bushes and picking up cups and wrappers and stuff. And they got to tag Clean Kennesaw and tag me, and they get points in the off-season competition. I think that that's part of coaching the total package, coaching people and teaching them about life, because litter is pretty disgusting and arrogant and ignorant and disrespectful to our environment and to our communities. And so I like to let our kids help in cleaning that up. And also we all, every athlete is rocking their gear, right? So you got this bright gold hoodie on and you see 40 kids in gold hoodies cleaning up trash on campus. That's good for your community. That's good for your image on campus. So we do that. In the classroom, we do all class checks. I'm part of all academic reports. And so me and my staff are marching around. No, Coach, you've talked about taking a role with this, and it's huge with the consistency, continuity of accountability. It's got to be 360 degrees, right? There's got to be accountability in the training room. There's got to be accountability at meal checks. There's got to be accountability going to class. There's got to be accountability going to lifts. There's got to be accountability going everywhere. And so we take all of that. And so I'm not saying that our kids don't miss class. I'm not saying that our kids don't miss stuff, but we take a lot of pride in making sure that they know that, like, they're rolling the dice if they try to skip, because they could get caught any minute now, and they understand. I think that's really important. So let's get into training. So we got 30 minutes, Coach. We're going to go an hour here. I got stuff to talk about. So let's talk training. So when we train the Owls, we got to talk about things to consider. What do we need? 2014 versus 2015, during 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, forever. What do we need culturally, behaviorally, and technically? I believe that every team is its own family with its own problems and its own strengths. So we got to look at what they need from a cultural perspective, right? Is that teach them to respect each other? Is that having more urgency? Is that fighting complacency? Do they need to be more humble, right? Those are cultural issues. And then the behavioral things that we want to work on are the specifics that will solve our cultural issues. Okay, so it's not just say, hey, we need to respect each other. How are we going to respect each other? How are we going to show respect to our staff? How are we going to so the cultural are the big picture issues, right? And then the behavioral points are, what are we doing to how are we doing a specific blueprint, how we're going to go about fixing those cultural issues. And we write those up, and then we write the technical stuff. So do we need to get stronger? Do we need to get faster? Do we need to get in better shape? Do we need to lose weight? Do we need to gain weight? Because every team's going to be a little bit different. I remember 2016, we played Liberty on homecoming, and anybody who knows me knows my feeling about Liberty, but we got stuffed on the goal line twice, and we got beat. They scored a late touchdown to win by 2 touchdowns, but we had an opportunity to go win that game. They stuffed us on the goal line twice, and that's embarrassing for a running football team to get stuffed. So I said, hey, we got to get stronger. I know that we're going to be the fastest. I know we're going to train our strengths, but we can narrow the gap. Right? We might be the fastest, but we don't got to be that much weaker than everybody else. We can narrow that gap. And so we made sure we set out to fix that problem. We beat Liberty the next year at their place on their homecoming. So what's up, Liberty? Take that all the way to FBS. So the technical objectives are positive. And I put the quote of the year for me, what's going to drive me. And this is just another year. This is summer 18. This is summer 19. They're different, right? And it's inspired by different things for different reasons. And this year will have its own. I haven't written it yet because we don't know when we're going back. So I'll write that same exact model when we go back. You also got to look at what your schedule is going to look like. For us, January, I get them. I'm going to have 5 days a week to do my job. February, it's 3 days a week lift, and then we got 2 days a week of coaches runs. Coaches runs are mat drills. Our mat drills are diabolical. They are absolutely diabolical. And I'm sure yours are too, but I'm just going to say that ours are. Okay. And so already in February, I've got to start making changes in the weight room to accommodate for what's going on in the field. Okay. So you might say, well, we're going to do an 8-week, this is 16-week. This. It's like, man, you got to take into account what's going on in the field and understand what the priority in the kids' minds are. when they got to go out on Tuesday and Thursday morning and go through hell, their mind is not on Monday, Wednesday, Friday's lifts. Okay. Keep the main thing, the main thing. We got to get stronger. We got to keep lifting. We'll get better. But the priority is coaches runs. And I love this story. And we had a defensive player of the year, senior year, is Anthony Gore. He had a little stint in Canada. He's a phenomenal human being, a great football player down in Statesboro, Georgia. We played Wofford in the second round of the playoffs in 2018. He had 12 and a half tackles, I think 6 for a loss, a forced fumble. And that forced fumble was recovered by us. And we kicked the field goal to win 10-7 or 13-10, right? That's a game of life. And when I hugged him after the game, I said, hey man, I love you. I'm proud of you. He said, man, that's coaches runs, coach. Thanks. I love you, coach. So you're going to tell me that coaches runs don't have an impact on your culture and your mentality? I know scientifically they don't make sense, but when that's what you attribute to the reason why you were able to have the game of your life, I'm going to start supporting that even more. And I know it doesn't make sense to a lot of people who wear GPS monitors, right? But it makes sense to the soul of our football team. And so we're going to continue to support that. In March, we have spring ball. So we lift twice a week. So I went from having them 5 days a week to 3 days a week to 2 days a week, right? And we're full pads every single day, cutting kids live to the ground, really, really aggressive practices. I call it trench warfare. It's World War I, you know, so I got to be smart again. It might be different in your program where you can try to train them like a real off season during spring ball, but we can't do that. And that's fine. We're going to maximize it. Spring break, they get the month of May off, and then we kill it in June and July. But you got to look at what's going on in your football program in order to make decisions on what's best for your training. You can't do it based on what you want to do. You got to do what's best on your schedule. So how do we go about our business? You know, you get your warm up, how we compete. FTA is our fast, tough, and athletic deal, how we get strong, and then how we beef up. So the warm up sets the tone for a session. You got to be willing to maximize and set and do things culturally within your warm up in order to really kick some ass. It can teach discipline and attention to detail. If you talk to anybody who's come through Kennesaw, their first month in June when they're training with just the freshmen, they'll talk about what the warm up is like and how it teaches them to focus on the little things. And that's what's going to make them better football players. So it can teach discipline and attention to detail. It can prep their bodies and minds for what's next. And it can allow you to get supervised sets of lame exercises. Like there's a lot of exercises out there that are boring, right? And if they're from the PT world, the athletic training world, and if you just leave lazy kids to do them, that's a waste of time. We don't got enough time to waste, right? This is a great quote by a guy who led a battalion during Vietnam. He said a serious shortcoming of the leaders in Vietnam was the failure to teach the importance of supervision and the techniques of supervising, saying that colonels didn't teach lieutenants that they needed to hold their kids accountable, right? The average small unit leader in 1969 seemed to take it for granted that his will would be done and that he didn't have to follow up. You need to make sure that if you want people doing dead bugs the right way, they're doing dead bugs the right way. Don't just show them how to do it and expect them to do it right. You got to hold them accountable. So here's a great video of my staff doing a really bad job. Okay, I'm calling cadence. When you're calling cadence, you can't coach, right? Because you got to call cadence. All right, but watch how bad my staff is. We use this as a teaching video anymore. Right? We're holding them accountable with a tempo, right? But my coaches are just watching. So now what you'll see is coaches sliding around the ground, pushing their hands in the low back, stepping on stomachs, engaging, asking questions, hands on, doing stuff that's going to supervise to make sure that they're doing it right, not just following a cadence. Okay, so you got to make sure they're doing those little things right. When you're doing these simple athletic-based drills, okay, you want to do it on a cadence. You want to do it in an environment where we can hold kids accountable. We can teach cultural goals and objectives in a big setting. I don't trust kids to do a great job of this by themselves, right? So we're going to put them in a group, organized where we can all see them, and we're going to coach them up this way. All this stuff is really important to happen during a warm-up when you've got people watching, when you've got the ability to supervise, restart, reset, okay? Because I don't really expect our kids to know exactly how to go about their business with these things, to take it seriously, you know, when it's small, minute details, right? So we incorporate all these things into our warm-ups, and then we'll get more fun and talk some jump. There's always music playing at Kennesaw. So different things that we'll do during the warm up as opposed to having them do on their own. So we can supervise it, we can coach it, we can monitor it and make sure they're doing those things right. I think we all understand the power of competition. Sometimes, you know, I'm 32, I've been coaching for 10 years now. I get kind of lost in some other things. I get lost in the program of the X's and O's. I get lost in the logistics of running a department. I get lost in some stuff. And I'm like, we don't, you know what? The kids should be about the training. They don't need to compete. They don't need to do tug of war. It's not related to their squat, whatever. And then we do a tug of war and the kids go nuts. And the energy and the enthusiasm goes crazy. And I'm like, man, why did we ever stop doing this? Right? Always remember, it's like Matthew McConaughey said, right? I get older, they say the same age. Okay. So you're always impacting 18 to 22-year-olds. So don't forget that it's going to impact them because it's still new to them. I love competition because it exposes kids who don't want to work hard. Studs versus duds, old versus new, and humbles people and can teach them the lessons they need to know. Here's an example. A prowler relay. That's Mackenzie Billingsley. We love him. This boy right here gained 30 pounds, just graduated. You can hear it. The guys are engaged. The guys are having fun, you know, and they're pushing themselves because they don't want to lose. Here's Luther. He coaches high school football in Georgia. Right. That type of environment is what we want to cultivate. Right. Maybe it took 10 minutes away from your speed training, but the kids are going to remember that. I'll never forget talking to Donnell again at the Citadel, and there was an interview done with seniors, and they said, what is your best memory of playing football at the Citadel? And one guy said, you know, dancing in the weight room with my buddies, right? Because the environment is what they remember. They don't remember squatting 500, right? They don't remember learning A skips. They remember the moments that they committed to. And I think that's so important to create those moments because they don't all happen organically. Some of them have to be fabricated. You know, you want it to be as organic as possible. You're responsible for allowing them to happen. FTA, this is a big part of what we do. So FTA is fast, tough, and athletic. Simple, aggressive movements that players can attack, right? So I love Olympic lifts. I'm bad at coaching them. I'm bad at it, all right? I watch some great coaches teach their kids cleans. I watch Joey G. Okay, I watch you, Paul Jackson. You know, you hear amazing things about Coach Moffitt at LSU, and I watch these coaches do a phenomenal job. And I don't know how they get their kids to catch the damn bar so well. Right? I don't know how to teach it. But you know what? I'm not going to let that stop me from getting our kids aggressive triple extension and getting after that ass. Right? So we'll use jammers. Going to tell me that this isn't super aggressive triple extension. And that gradually gets loaded up more over time. But that's a quarterback. Some quarterbacks are nervous about Olympic lifts because of their wrist, elbow, shoulder. Well, he ain't nervous about hitting jammers. That guy's going to score a lot of touchdowns for us this year. Right? Here's jammers again. More disciplined environment. Coach, there's that voice back when it was raw, right? But that's a great environment to be in. That's fast, tough, and athletic. We love to sprint, jump, and throw. So here's med balls. A second day of Olympic lifts. We're doing kettlebell swings in the back, right? And we're launching a ball against the wall. We've gotten better at our urgency. This was a long time ago. Mason Harris right over here in the second. He's on NASCAR pit crew right now, which is a fun story to tell, right? But this is unadulterated, raw, you know, uninhibited action. And we love this stuff. This is the stuff that's going to give us not just the ability to be explosive, but the mentality of attack and explosiveness. And it's going to help us be who we're trying to be. Remember, this is about being who we're trying to become. We do a lot of work with prowlers. We do a lot of training outside. And so here's an example of how we can do something Olympic-based, okay, outside without a barbell. Right, so get your hands low on the handle, bend your knees, flat back, chin down, and launch it, right? Horizontal displacement, great for acceleration, great for big guys, you know, and you can do this for reps or you can do this for distance. And we did both, right? This day looks a lot different when it's dry turf versus wet turf too, which is funny when the thing don't move very far. but that was a fun summer. We did a whole day lifting in, running outside every Monday. And we had to find ways to be explosive. And that's how we did it. And I think that's an awesome creative way of doing it. We use landmines. Young man who's got some neck issues, so he doesn't do a lot of axial loading. So we'll hit a landmine, hips back, shoot him through. Right. So we'll find ways to band that. We'll find ways to load that. And that's a way for him to really work his hips, just like everybody else's. It's just going to look a little different. It doesn't involve a ton of thought, doesn't involve a ton of teaching, right? And he can be really, really aggressive. I like to say raw and unadulterated, right? Rated R, where he's getting with that bar. Okay. So we love FTA. I think that's a cornerstone of what we're about. And I think that allows our kids to feel free and uninhibited in our training environment. They don't feel like things are so complicated that they can't be aggressive. And that's important to me. And I respect people who disagree. It's just the way we do it here. Some of the things that we do is with strength training. I'm not going to go over all the crazy specifics of this. We love APRE. If you're interested in how we do it, shoot me an email, hit me up on Instagram. I'd be happy to send you a video, a link, or talk to you personally. But I'm not going to get into that, but I believe in getting away from percentages sometimes and allowing people to maximize their day and earn the way that they move into some heavier weights. So, if you want to if you're lifting 315, but you want to lift 325, well, you got to get every rep assigned for you that day. Right. And next week we'll bump you up. If you don't, you can't go up. Right. And we try to make it where we're really giving you an objective for the day and a long-term goal, and allow you to really maximize what you're doing in that day. Because we know that there's a huge difference of percentages from Monday to Tuesday. I believe there's a 34% difference, 17 up, 17 down. So what you're bringing into Monday is not necessarily what you're bringing into Tuesday. So I want to find opportunities to let you maximize what you've got in that day. We love velocity-based training, especially dynamic effort. This young man was a great lifter from the tiniest town in Alabama. He's now our graduate assistant. But what I love about this video is it shows how a mentality changes when you're seeing feedback in the moment. So when you're seeing the speed, it also has great teamwork where you're going to hear his teammate reading it out to him, and you'll hear it here. So he needed to hit those reps above 0.8, and he was getting feedback and communication from his teammate. He was busting his ass to get as explosive as possible, and he was excited when he got 3 for 3. Because if you go 3 for 3, you can go up in weight. If you don't get 3 for 3, right, you got to stay or you got to go down, right? So that's a great way of creating a little bit of competition within yourself, okay? But also when you're starting to have one rack here, one rack here of guys competing, and there's a number, man, that's better than playing Madden. Like it's just an awesome environment. And then that's when you can like stop being the oppressive dictator and let them take the session from you and really maximize what they're going to be. I believe that. And from a dynamic effort standpoint, it's not just bars. We do some upper body stuff. Big Z play for the Texans. Kyle Aerosmith just graduated, but it's a really great tire fight. And so that's from time to time, you're going to try to get guys pushing over. That's an FTA mentality, right? That's a way that you get out of the weight room, having some fun. If you look, there's smiles everywhere on that screen. Guys having fun, getting after it, and that's what we want in our environment. We love the Juggernaut Waves with Chad Wesley Smith. I'm a big Joe DeFranco fan. We do tier system work. Here's our boy Ant Gore. Okay, this is late in the lift. I believe in training complex movements late in the lift. I think we can get after it. I think we can get better that way. Like I heard the first time Joe Ken talked, he goes, what football coach ever said, I don't want to be explosive in the fourth quarter, right? So we're going to take that mentality and we're going to train some fourth quarter drill. And we do a lot of triphasic work when I feel like our team is mature enough and can lift with good enough technique. So here's a great example of what an eccentric lift looks like. And I love the discipline of that 6-second count. Boom. And I love the teamwork that comes with the guy helping him up. I think there's just a lot going on with the way triphasic is built that can help teams get better. And here's the full deal with the plyos. Here's again. is the single, right? Which is, I think, 90%. Okay, then he's going to do his repeated hops. His weighted hops from a deficit. And then what we call his super jumps. We're lucky enough to have a great facility where we can do some pretty cool stuff, right? But that's how we're going to run our triphasic plyos with our advanced kids. Now, I've only run a full triphasic wave twice since I've been at Kennesaw. And it's when we've had an older group of guys who are adequate lifters with what I consider adequate strength levels. And both times they've gone remarkably well. But I'm not going to put bad lifters or irresponsible and immature kids doing the most advanced training we can figure out. All right, I'm going to fly through this. We're getting towards the end here. I like breaking things up into level-based training. It's, sometimes it's the best thing to do is have everybody do the same thing. Sometimes it's to have an advanced and a beginner. Sometimes you can have three. It really depends on what your roster looks like. But our white group, or what we call our infantry, is our young average lifter. They need size and strength. Okay, so the big influences on that is our juggernaut training systems, our juggernaut waves, okay, and our 5-3-1 with Jim Wendler. Huge, like super, super simple stuff, but super effective, especially with young kids. We did a full juggernaut 10s wave, then 8s wave, then 5s waves, and 3s waves with our non-travel this past fall, and our kids exploded. Absolutely exploded. Basic linear periodization, done with the brain over time with intermittent opportunities to reset your max. And it was awesome. Our gold group or our armor group or our airborne group, based on if we're doing 2 or 3, are our more advanced guys. And the big influences there is our West Side barbell, using APRE and its derivatives, or triphasic. And so we use all of those references. And then we have a squat alternate group, which are poor movers, are guys who have had chronic injuries, they have pain in training, and we find alternate ways of achieving our mission. And a big inspiration there is Joe DeFranco's Built to Last program, which you can get online. But it's for, washed up meatheads who still want to clang and bang, but they got to take care of their bodies. So we'll do a lot more single leg work there. We'll just make sure the FTA is more with landmines and kettlebells as opposed to barbells. And Desmond Johnson, who's a 4-time all-conference defensive end for us, just graduated. He was a phenomenal player for us. He didn't squat after his freshman year, and I wasn't going to take our best defensive player and have him get hurt in the weight room. So he followed that type of program for 3 or 4 years. And again, was a 4-time first team all-conference player. So I'll stand by what we're doing from that. It's a little different. And I understand a lot of people feel like everybody should squat, everybody should do this, but the way we do things with our kids, we defend that. Coach, we're closing up on an hour. So I'm going to skip how we run. Because, we have the linear and multi-directional, how we condition, all that stuff. It's pretty simple. We're not very advanced. Some videos, we like to throw shit. With some discipline, you launch yourself on those agile bags. It's simple. Then we'll move that to single leg. We'll do all this type of work, and then we'll sprint. We transition this into acceleration work. And we do a lot of weighted sled work, as heavy as you can run with good technique, right? Obviously, depending on the slickness of the turf, but we do a lot of resisted sleds. It gets lighter as the summer goes on. And we do a lot of this. And what I love about this is we call a winner, but if you listen, I don't know how well you can hear it, Coach, but they're talking some shit. And that is what we want. We want kids who are going to talk junk. Right? We'll do some wickets, we'll do combine versus combat work, some basics like this. And if you're interested in this stuff, people who are listening, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll share everything that we do. But we like to break down our positional movements. It's really simple. I'm not a genius by any means. We have our issues, but we like to do part whole. We break down our movements. And we do simple stuff. We can do inside, outside, and we combine it with our jumps. And we get progressive with that. I believe this was spring 19. Going back. Some of our more aggressive, like agility work, is position based. So this is a linebacker drill. What I like about doing this stuff is, you know, you can do drills that really give them a general benefit, but it makes them feel like they're playing their sport. And when a kid feels like they're playing their sport, they're going to work a little bit harder. Here's a drill. This is we have 2 safeties and a corner in this drill. And then a good strong finish, right? So some stuff that just makes them feel like they're athletes, and then something that will have a little bit more, you know, accountability to it. Can't touch a bag, can't touch the line until you get the second whistle, wave in, wave out, sprint through the cone. This is an early off-season deal. This isn't going to get you hurt. And you can really see who's coming in ready, who can stay focused, who can have discipline. And it's pretty cool to watch. This is from a couple of years. I obviously waved my hand. We were going to do that one again. Combat drills. 3 o'clock in the afternoon in July. This is what all positions will do, because we'll do station work. You'll go through 6 stations. I think this is important to put people in really uncomfortable situations. It has nothing to do with playing your position, but we've covered that in another part of the summer or another day of the week. And it's just our opportunity to get after it and be aggressive and just be athletes. I love when kids have to fall. You know, when kids are on the ground, they're getting pellets all up on them. You know, because think about this, guys, you know, if you don't get them on the ground, they haven't fallen since March when we go into camp. So I think learn to fall is important. I'll give Matt Baney his love here. This is stack and attack. The redhead here on the white cone is our quarterback's coach now. So that's pretty neat to have trained someone who's working for us. Right, some of our aggressive stuff that we'll do. And there we got to throw this picture in from our conditioning. This is Xavier Harper. He works for Play now. Everybody should bust his balls a little bit. You know, some of the stuff we do from an accountability standpoint, you know, we put people in groups and we line them up against each other. We evaluate. I think it's really important to tell kids the truth. That sounds simple, but a lot of us don't do it. And, you know, tell them when they're the best, tell them when they're the worst. It can be good, it can be bad. But you got to put them in a situation where they know exactly where they stand. This thing obviously blew up and went all over the world. This is another opportunity for us to do team group, best and worst, different drills. Who's in the gold standard? Who's unacceptable? We'll do studs and duds, champs and chumps, lions and lambs, and we'll find different ways. If you miss reps, we'll put a screen up on the TVs about you missed reps. All those different things. It's important to celebrate the good, but also make sure the people who are doing a bad job know that they're not doing the job that they need to do. To sum it up, and I think I'll be right at about an hour, Coach, which is perfect. When you're looking at Kennesaw State, all right, and the stuff that I've learned from is culture beats scheme, especially when you have a good scheme. When you're trying to be a really aggressive coach, it gives you no excuse to be ignorant, right? But, you know, you got to know your stuff. You got to have a plan. You got to be able to execute it safely, but don't be afraid to get after it. Teach athletes to work hard and hold them accountable. This book is written by a lieutenant who served overseas. And during his training, he said competence is the biggest morale booster, right? All the cohesion in the world, all the teamwork and the camaraderie, right? Is no substitute for tactical knowledge. Okay. He drilled his squad every day after he returned from the field. And when the other people ate pizza and by the lake, and they reviewed and they learned. And when they would say, hey, why do we have to do this? He'd say, because we want to win. Right. So you got to make sure that you don't forget. You got to be competent in what you're talking about. And this is going back to the Steal My Soldiers' Hearts book written by the gentleman, the officer in Vietnam. Besides technical and tactical incompetence, the next biggest shortcomings of new infantry leader replacements was a failure to be demanding and a reluctance to ensure that their men carried out the basics that would keep them alive on the battlefield. Right. It's a leader's job to hold people accountable, because you cannot have this assumption that they just know what to do or that they believe in you. Your job to hold them accountable until you can truly, truly trust the individual. So watch finish lines, make sure people touch things with their hands. You know, when we're going through this COVID-19 thing and we got to have kids clean them after themselves, make sure they're cleaning. Don't go in the office and get on a phone call until the job is done. Get in there, right, and make sure that the kids are doing what they're supposed to do. know your role and know your boss. Okay, know who you're working for and know what you're trying to build and why you're building it. Because you might have the biggest, strongest team in the world, but you ended up training a team that is supposed to be really, really fast and really, really fit and get you fired. Know what you're doing and train appropriately, and then always strive to be better. Some of the references, I got three slides of this. Joe Ken, Brian Mann, Joel Jameson, Mike Boyle, Jim Wendler, Cal Dietz, Joe DeFranco, these guys, Louis Simmons, just phenomenal references. So get your hands on these books. These books are more outside of the training realm. This is your outside the box thinking. This is your leadership. The Gates of Fire, 5 Dysfunctional Team, Urban Meyer's books are phenomenal. These books right here have done more for me as a coach than these books. I believe that firmly. It's leadership, it's management, it's thinking outside the box, and then some really good podcasts. Again, leadership, culture driven stuff that are great listens. And if you only have a 5 or 10 minute drive to work, you'll be amazed. You can still get through 1 or 2 episodes a week. And I got no problem with people who want to shut off and listen to their music. That's cool. But don't say you got no time to listen to podcasts. Like, you can find a way to put those on and learn a little bit. Big thanks to my wife and my baby girl, who's 2 months old yesterday, Coach Bo, and then my whole staff. That is a picture from like 2 weeks ago of my wife and girl, and a huge perspective shift for me in my life. And to any young coach out there who's paying attention to this talk, understand that there's more to life than iron, right? Seek to do a great job in your profession. Take pride in serving your student athletes, but don't neglect yourself, your family. And like Mac Brown said, don't let this be the best thing that you ever did, right? So commit to being part of something bigger than yourself, not just with a football team or a baseball team, but with a family as well. And don't be a deadbeat. But that's where I'm at, Coach. That's my presentation. I went 61 minutes and 52 seconds according to my watch.
All good. I appreciate it. Awesome stuff. Like I said, I like some of the stuff you put in there, the addition, and especially the book reads, and just share those pictures and stuff. Those are really cool. Plus the podcast. I live in LA, so I have a solid 55 minute to an hour ride home every night. So I got something to do with my time versus, making a phone call or two. I'm going to jump on some of these podcasts you're talking about. Next speaker will be Thursday. One of our SC USC strength coaches. I've known Tim here, I think since the 2010 or 11, he came on board as an intern, but quickly we said, this guy should no longer be an intern. We got to find a way to make him a full-time coach. And luckily at the time we had the ability to do that. So when I came back last year, was happy to see this guy's still in the building, in the weight room, doing his thing. I don't know how many national titles he's won with just men's and women's water polo at USC. I'm sure he's got more rings that can fit on one hand with this. So Tim, come on. You're up for next Thursday. Tell them what you're going to talk about.
Coach, what's going on? I hope everything's going well.
Yes, sir.
Coach Christie, bringing the juice, man. I'm trying to eat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know it.
Oh, I love it, Coach. That was awesome. Thank you. Over my decade at SC, man, I've gone through a lot of changes, coaching changes, strength coaches coming and going. But I think one thing that's really kind of stayed the same as far as the weight room goes is our internship program and how we run it and go about it. So coming up on Thursday, that's something I'm going to touch base on, kind of how ours is structured, how you can structure yours if you're trying to improve a little bit or think of new ways of getting away from what you're currently doing. So that's where we'll be going.
Awesome. And I'm might be moving the time on Thursdays from here on out to noon versus 1 o'clock. I haven't confirmed it yet. I'm trying to get out of a meeting just to make sure I'm okay to get out of it and continue to do this at 1 o'clock. If need be, though, we might move it up an hour from here on out, but I'll make that announcement if needed. But anyway, Coach KIRITSY, Tim, appreciate everything. We'll sign this one off. I'll shut this thing down. And episode 11 came with a bang.